Hello and welcome to Anderson Community Television. I'm Carol Donahue, your host today of At Your Service. Today's program, we welcome firefighter, paramedic Ben Meyer from the Anderson Township Fire and Rescue. And he's going to give us some wonderful hints and show us some demonstrations here on how to keep our home, our children, and all of us safe. Welcome to the program, Ben.
Thank you, Carol. It's nice to be here.
Well, great. I'd like to give us some hints for some child safety in our homes.
Well, last time I was here, we spoke about car seats and
Yes.
child safety seats in vehicles. We talked about how to install them, how to use them properly, and basically the whole premise is behind using car seats is preventing the preventable injuries. Accidents happen. They're always going to happen. But by using some common sense in certain things, we can prevent certain injuries. I'd like to talk a little bit about what we can do to make our homes safe for children.
Childproofing.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, childproofing is a term that most, even first-time parents and grandparents are familiar with. I mean, there's basic childproofing products that you can find at most stores. I mean, Kroger probably has some. But,
You know those locks that you put on cabinet doors? I think that's such a challenge for the adults to get those open.
They can be. That is absolutely true. But cabinet locks are one of the items. You know, you want to keep your child away from household cleaners or poisons or pesticides or even soaps. There's baby gates to restrict access so they wouldn't fall downstairs or get outdoors that you didn't want them to. There's even doorknob locks or attachments that you have to squeeze hard. And another thing is blind cords for curtains and stuff. I mean, those have in the past provided choking hazards for certain children. What's important is not just your house. Any place that your child's going to be is a place that needs to be child-proofed. Your grandparents or your parents or a babysitter or a family friend or whoever might be watching that child, even for an hour, that place needs to be child-proofed as well.
I know exactly what you mean. I've got 6 grandchildren, and I'm not used to doing that. I'm used to leaving stuff sit around, and all of a sudden you stop and think, oh, they'll be here in an hour. I better take a quick look around and see what needs to be done and what needs to be put away.
Exactly. And what I like to instruct parents to do is what they already know. Their job throughout the next 18 years, once you have a child, is the health and well-being of your child. And you know, especially younger kids, I mean, primarily between the age of toddler and up to 5, you know, we really need to be careful with that age group. And, you know, they're not going to instantly recognize danger. And I mean, heck, when my little girl was 2, I mean, she'd have jumped off the roof if I'd have been down there telling her to. They have complete trust and no fear. And that's one of the parts of human nature that can get us all in trouble. But it's equally important, like I said, to make sure every place that your child's going to be is taken care of. I'd like to expand on some of the basic child-proofing practices that we all know and have heard about and have been around for a while with some things that you might not have heard of before. One of the primary things that we worry about is paramedics and is parents is ingestion hazards.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know it, children between, I mean, that 12 to 24 month age is, I mean, their brains are expanding. They're mobile now. They can get into stuff. They can go to places. And they experience the world through their eyes, their hands, and unfortunately their mouths. I mean, kids will put darn near anything they can in their mouth.
Exactly, exactly.
And one of the things that I like to tell people is I've been to many a well child-proofed home, gates and locks and everything, but you go into the restroom and there's 6 pill bottles sitting on the sink. Or in a medicine cabinet that any child could flip down a toilet seat, climb up and get to. And, you know, to a 2-year-old, Advil looks like M&Ms. You know, it's important that we keep that type of stuff, prescription medicine, as well as over-the-counter medicine. Tylenol can be a killer if you take too many of them. Out of their reach and out of their hands, and make sure we use all them child-proof lids.
Women don't use them too often, but years ago women used bobby pins. This shows how old I am. And one of my younger sons at the time stuck a bobby pin in an electrical outlet, and he had quite a burn, and we had to take him to the hospital. And so I've always had a fear of electrical things, like over the holidays, and you've got all these extension cords, and the tree was plugged in and all this. It always kind of worried me as far as electrical issues too.
Absolutely. And a lot of people, along with the basic child-proofing, they think, if we can just take those little outlet covers and stick them in the outlets so that kids can't stick stuff in there. But, if you're using that outlet to power a lamp, you can't really have an outlet cover in it. So what we usually suggest is, wherever possible, to limit children's, especially young children's, access to the cords. Because who's to say they're not going to unplug it and stick something in there? It is a hazard, and most 110 outlets have enough.
Oh yeah.
To
We were at somebody's house a few months ago over the holidays, and a child picked up a remote for the fireplace.
Yeah.
Clicking on and off, and I thought, oh, that's not too advisable either.
One of them things,
You bet,
preventable.
you bet. I know this is another category, but batteries are also something that needs a lot of attention.
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked. I'd like to show you this. A couple things I brought. These here are coin-sized batteries. A lot of times they're called button batteries. They're becoming more and more popular, and the number of things you can find these types of batteries in, it expands every day. You can find them in, they're in car keypads, key fobs, remote controls, various types of electronics, calculators. I brought in a guitar tuner that any 1 to 2 year old can easily get to and find the battery.
Sure,
It just
plop it out.
falls right out, just like that. They're even found in musical birthday cards and stuff. The
Oh,
cards
that's right.
that you open up and they sing the song, and the kids love them. If they tore that apart, there's probably one of those batteries in there powering them. I have a couple statistics I'd like to tell you.
Sure.
According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, there's 3,500 ingestion reports of kids swallowing these every year. 3,500. What's staggering is the number of children with serious injuries, and you're probably thinking it's a little battery. What serious injuries? I'll tell you in a second. But there's been at least 12 confirmed deaths
Really?
with kids result of these types of batteries. It's quadrupled between 2006 and 2010.
Like all of our electronic use,
primarily because of this battery. This is the 3-volt lithium 20 millimeter wide battery. It's bigger and it's more powerful and it's more popular than ever. And these are great batteries. But the problem lies with, it kind of looks like a nickel. It's about the size of a nickel, and it's easily swallowed. And if a young child were to put it in their mouth and swallow it, if this battery lands in a certain way and sticks to the lining of their esophagus,
Oh my.
especially on the negative pull, what can happen is there's a microcurrent in this battery that will react with the saliva and tissue fluids in your esophagus, form a hydroxide, and you can get alkaline burns in your esophagus, and it actually can burn a hole through the esophagus.
Oh my goodness. So
And
time is of the essence.
Absolutely, and it can be happening in as little as 2 hours.
Oh my goodness.
So it's very serious that we keep these batteries and things containing these batteries. And if you don't know what those things are, find out. What's in your house, what you use, what your child has access to. Find these batteries and make sure they don't have access to them. This, the Energizer, and I'm going to hand this to you, and you can see this is actually in a child-proof container. Because Energizer, there's very good information on their website about this problem, and I'll read right on the back. It says, top line, keep out of reach of children. Swallowing may lead to serious injury or death in as little as 2 hours due to chemical burns and potential perforation of the esophagus. It's a very serious thing, and we need to keep these
You bet.
out of the hands of our little ones.
Sure do.
Another thing, I didn't bring any of those with me, but they're very small magnets. This isn't a new problem. Back in 2005, there was actually a toy set. It's a building set called, I think it was called Magnetics. and it's kind of like Legos, but they're
yeah,
little
yeah,
magnets, and you
magnets.
can build stuff with them. Those magnets sometimes would dislodge, and kids would pick them up and put them in their mouth and sometimes swallow them. And swallowing one of them isn't that big of a deal, but if you swallowed 10 of them, and now all of a sudden all these 10, 15 magnets clump together,
Oh boy.
because they do. That's the whole point of them. They stick
They
together.
draw, yeah.
And that could actually cause a blockage in your digestive tract, resulting in you probably need a surgical intervention to get them out.
So you talk about like the magnets on refrigerators,
Yeah, well, the little tiny ones.
the little small ones.
Yeah, batteries are getting more powerful and
Smaller.
because they're using rare earth alloys to make them. I couldn't pronounce some of them, but like molybdenum and things
Yeah.
such as that. But one of the problems that you might not think of is if kids swallow 2 of those at different intervals. You know, one might be in the stomach and one might be
Oh.
in the small bowel, and they will attract to each other, and they can actually cause perforations in the digestive tract. So the thing is, back in 2008, there's been some federal guidelines about toys containing batteries. Everybody realizes it's not good, so you're not going to find a whole lot of toys containing batteries made in the last 5 years or more. But the older ones are still out there. The thing is, there's no guidelines against products that are adult marketed. You know, if there's adult things that have small batteries, those are still allowed, and kids can get into them. So if you have items in around, I mean, I saw, I can't remember the name of it. It was like kind of magnetic stress ball thing that people can put on their desk, you know, to arrange, you know, while
Oh.
they're on the phone and stuff.
Yeah.
Exact same problem can occur using adult products.
My goodness.
So keep them away from
My
the kids.
goodness. So you've got all sorts of things here. What are some other household situations where injuries can occur with children?
Well, you watch the news pretty much in any city or state in America, and there's lots of things that we hear, tragedies involving kids. The lion's share of which is preventable. One of the things I'd like to touch on is firearm safety in the home. I mean, there's over 1.7 million households where children live containing a firearm. And regardless of how you feel about firearms, they're out there. And I got a couple other numbers I'd like to read you. According to the CDC, which is the Centers for Disease Control, between 2007 and 2011, an average of 62 children per year, 14 or under, are killed in firearm-related accidents. 65% of those took place in the victim's own home. And the 19% more took place in the homes of friends or relatives of the victim. 70% of those were preventable. Now, I know what a lot of people are thinking, you know, if they have a handgun or a long gun or any gun, what can you do? Keep it unloaded and locked up and out of the reach of, or even the potential possible reach of a child. But if your purpose of having a firearm in your home is for home protection, what good is a locked up and unloaded gun going to do for you? You know, all guns come with a gun lock. That's where they come. There's various different types, but most of them all come with a gun lock. If you choose not to use this, here's something else I'd like to show you. This is a handgun safe. And what this allows you to do is keep a loaded firearm if you needed to by your bedside or on a table or whatever that a child can't really get into. I mean, there's no way to get into it, and basically it still allows you that quick access to, if you needed it, if you felt you needed it, there's buttons and you push a code and a little flap pops open and you can get that out. And kids can't get a hold of it. And that's one of the firearm safety is extremely important with kids. And
Do you set your own code for when you buy the box?
Yeah,
And you
can change it as often as you
periodically?
like, which is something else I'd like to touch on. Most of the things we've talked about so far mostly involve young children. When it comes to firearms in the house, it doesn't just involve young children. I mean, you have a 12, 13, 14-year-old boy, you know, they're going to be more inquisitive or more interested in, you know, getting into dad's gun case and showing their friends. And a lot of accidents happen like that, and they're needless accidents. Keep the kids away from the firearms.
Exactly. I know some people say, well, I have the gun in one spot and then I've hidden the bullets somewhere else. So, I mean, they'll find them. Yeah. Kids have a way of being drawn to it.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I think, too, a big worry is, you know, your home is safe, but when your kids go to a sleepover, especially boys, and, you know, maybe the parent steps out for a little while and they decide, hey, look what I've got. And then you have no control over that.
Exactly. And that just harkens back to what I said before. It's our responsibility as parents to provide the safety and well-being of their child. And it's your job to look into that stuff. You know, I mean, know the parents who your kids are having sleepovers with, and know their practices and their views on child safety and what they're going to allow and not allow. And that onus is on you as a parent.
I think there's just so many ways, you know, with kids, you just could think for hours of all the things that they could do to hurt themselves. There's all sorts of other accidents. And I know I saw a note about leaving the kids in the car in the summer. I mean...
Absolutely. Hot car accidents, and another thing is accidental backovers.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, both things that have happened right here in Cincinnati that you hear on the news, and we probably will hear on the news, unfortunately, this year once again. Hot car accidents are pretty tragic. And
getting back to the backup things, I wish all cars were equipped with those backup cameras.
Yeah, they really help. They're not going to be foolproof, but I mean, it's one of those things that since and not only the backup cameras, but the sensors with the beeps as well. But as far as the hot car accidents, I mean, since 1998, 38 kids a year die due to being left in a hot car. And there's not a whole lot you can say to how do you prevent that. Well, don't forget your kid. But, you know, as busy as life can be, and people are moving and shuffling and running and distracted by phones and everything else that's going on in life, you can kind of see how it happens, which doesn't excuse it. You just have to be extra diligent as a parent. And one thing that they found works is it's called the shoe trick. And if you're in the car and you're a busy person and you're driving around and it's summertime, when you strap your child in the car seat, take your left shoe off and put it on the seat right next to your child.
What a great idea.
Because
you can't
get out of the car, you're going to go back there to get your shoe, and your kid's right there, and it drastically reduces the likelihood of forgetting your child.
That's a great idea. You know, when you do something out of the ordinary, like the one case, for instance, where they weren't used to taking the child and they stopped to get something to take to work with them, anytime your regular pattern is disturbed, you know, that's when we get into trouble.
Regarding the backovers, it's a problem too. The CDC says since 2005, there's been 2,400 kids treated in ERs for injuries due to backovers, and that's 48 per week. And out of them 48, 2 of them are usually fatal per week. It's a big deal. And the most at-risk kids, once again, are the 1 to 2-year-olds because, you know, they're fearless and they can't put together, hey, Dad's backing up, I better get out of the way. And they're short.
You can't see them out the back window.
60% of these vehicles, or these accidents, involve large vehicles, trucks, vans, SUVs. And the saddest part is 70% have a parent or relative behind the wheel doing it. So, I mean, having the backup cameras really helps. It can reduce your blind spot up to 90%, but that still leaves 10%. So all I can say is before you put the car in reverse, make sure you know where the kids are. And if there are toys in the driveway, I mean, just take that extra second. And one of the things we do when we pull up on a fire, before we do anything else, is somebody walks a complete circle around that structure to make sure we see everything there is to see. Get in the habit of walking a circle around your car.
You know what I've found is such a nuisance? So many of these gigantic vans parked next to you, say at the mall or at the town center, and you can't quite see around them, so you look and you check, and then you back up, and all of a sudden there's a person yelling, "Stop!" And you just really have to be alert.
You do. I mean,
that you can't almost well, it happening because it's a blind spot.
Right.
Wow, wow. So let's go back to the batteries for a while there.
Okay.
I was reading where the disposal of batteries is so important.
It is, and I brought something I'm going to show you. One of the things we at the fire department preach, and we will always preach it, is smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. Smoke detectors save lives, is a proven fact, and you should have them in your house, both the ionization and the photoelectric type. That's a topic for a different day. Mm-hmm. One of the things that most people have heard is, you know, when the time changes twice a year, to change the batteries in your smoke detector. Mm-hmm. Best practice you can do. But what do you do
when you change those
when you take the battery out?
Right.
Most of those smoke detectors run off a 9-volt battery, just ordinary Kroger 9-volt battery. I don't have any hard numbers for you, but structure fires have started because of this 9-volt battery. One of the things that a lot of people don't, and it's not just the 9-volt battery, it's just more likely because the pole pieces are right here as opposed to they're further apart on the D's and the A's and double A's. But any thin piece of metal that comes in contact with this can, and even the older batteries that you took out still usually have enough juice to do this. Mm-hmm. This is an older battery. This isn't brand new.
Really?
I've kept this for this purpose, but it will cause a short circuit between the poles, and it can start a fire. You throw it in your garbage can. Say you had a product like SOS, steel wool, or anything like that. What will happen, and I'm going to put this up here just
for safety.
For safety. What will happen is, say this is in the bottom of your garbage can, and you just throw this in the garbage can. All it takes is a touch, and that'll just get hot enough instantly to start a fire.
My goodness.
Yeah, and
who would have thought?
Right. So, what can you do about that? Black electrical tape, lay it across the poles. Now you can put it in a recycling bin. And if you don't have any tape will work, but if you don't have any tape, a Ziploc bag, just put the batteries in a Ziploc bag, as long as there's plastic in between where, you know, it can't touch any potential metal that you might have thrown away in your garbage. A paper clip will get hot enough over time to potentially start a fire, just by laying across those.
Wow, that's interesting.
And it's actually becoming a bigger known big deal as far as that goes.
And the disposal of these?
Same way. I don't know if I could do that with one of these. I've never tried, but the main thing is dispose them in a way that kids can't get them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be less worried about a fire with these than with those. But the hazards of these can be just as bad.
Well, ingesting, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. Another thing I'd like to mention is the biggie. When it comes to child safety in and around the home, per the CDC, between 2005 and 2009, over 700 kids died of accidental drowning.
We're heading into that season.
Exactly. I mean, summer is right around the corner, and people who have swimming pools need to be extra diligent about that. And once again, the age between 1 and 4 is the age we worry about. That's the highest. They have the highest drowning rate, and of all accidental deaths from kids 1 to 4, all of them, cars, everything. Drowning comprises 30%. It's the absolute #1
really
way that accidental deaths between 1 and 4-year-olds. If you have a pool, all I can say is limit the child's access to the pool. Get a fence put around the pool. If there's inflatable pool toys or floaties or toys on the pool deck, remove those. I mean, the kid could be looking out the window and see his favorite inflatable thing, and that'll draw them out there to go try to get it, and that's when tragedy can strike. We can't be more diligent when it comes to that.
You know, I heard somebody talking about a security company put some kind of a buzzer on the gate so that at a certain time, if somebody like in the middle of the night or early in the morning in a certain time frame, that opened, it would set off an alarm.
That's a wonderful idea. I haven't seen that personally, but that would be great.
Yeah.
But
And then too, in the wintertime, when you've got some of the people that have those above the ground pools and they put the covers over them, somebody's, oh, I wonder what that water looks like.
exactly, and you don't think about pool safety in February.
No, you don't.
If you have a pool, you can't take any months off from pool safety, especially if you have little kids.
Wow.
I mean, for what we do as a firefighter paramedic, and I can speak for every guy I've ever known who does this profession. If we'd never get called to any of these things for the rest of our career, great. The last thing we want to ever go to is a child seriously injured. And it's even worse if the injury was preventable. I mean, so by being here today, I hope to prevent or at least get you thinking any injuries or accidents that can be prevented should. I mean, it's just like seatbelts. I mean, we've all seen somebody be ejected from a car or heard about it, or even somebody go through the windshield of a car in a crash. I can almost guarantee you that they weren't wearing a seatbelt. Seatbelts keep you in the car. Every injury they got from going through a windshield was preventable by using a seatbelt. And with kids, it's even more important because they don't make that decision for themselves every time.
What I like to do is challenge all the grandparents out there to go through their cabinets and their closet and their medicine cabinet under their sink and just check and make sure everything is put away, everything is secured and tightened. Go out and check that above the ground pool and make sure that cover is tight on there. Because as a grandparent, that would be the worst.
It would.
It would be.
I can't even imagine.
Well, Ben, this has been invaluable information you've given us. I can tell you're such a caring person, and for bringing all this to light, it's invaluable to us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being on our program today, and thank all of you for watching Anderson Community Television. I'm Carol Donahue saying goodbye, and I'll see you the next time.